From the heart of New York City, welcome to Your Questions, Your Money, and a woman who has made her mark on food in this city, actually this country. Donatella Arpaia joins us now. For those of you who might not know her, first, shame on you if you don't know her.
Thank you, ladies.
Donatella is the owner of a string of successful restaurants in New York, one in Miami. In addition to her restaurant success, she also has created a line of Italian tomato sauces and other delicious food items that you can buy.
Yeah. And if that's not enough to keep her busy, Donatella can be seen as a judge on the Food Network's The Next Iron Chef. I watch the Food Network 24/7. When I'm not here, I'm watching the Food Network. And so, was that an amazing experience to be a part of that?
Oh, yes, it was wonderful. This was the second series of Finding Our Next Iron Chef. It airs October 4th, and it's exciting. I mean, I'm on a detox diet right now because I had to eat a lot of food, but it's fascinating. It's great to see chefs do what they do and be in competition, and it's just great.
Now, I got to ask, wait, do they know?
But do they know?
What do they know when he comes up and he says the ingredient is,
Yes.
and then, you know, it's peaches, and
right.
then...
And then automatically know what to do. I always get asked this question. About a week before, or 3 or 4 days before, the producers give them a list of about 4 or 5 ingredients, and it's one of them.
So they could plan menus.
So they can prepare, but it's still a lot of work, and it's still very, very difficult.
And Donatella has also appeared on Top Chef, which is my personal favorite cooking show.
The hot dog challenge.
I remember that vividly.
15 hot dogs.
But let's talk about the restaurant business,
Yes.
because almost beyond anything else, we get phone calls from people who want to start their own restaurant. You grew up in a restaurant family. You went off to law school, and after 7 months of practicing corporate law, you said, I got to go in the restaurant business.
Right.
Why? Why did you make the switch? Was it just in your blood?
I think so. I mean, my crib literally was near the dishwashing station.
In the kitchen.
When I grew up. But my father, my parents were both immigrants. He did not want me to be in the business. My brother was going to be in the business. He has a successful restaurant, Cellini, but I was going to be a lawyer. So I became a lawyer. And
were you going to be a lawyer because you wanted to be, or he wanted you to be a lawyer?
That's a good question. I don't know, because from the time I was very young, it was encouraged, and you know, you want to make your family proud and you do the right thing. But you know, the restaurant business was in my blood. It's a culture. People who are in the restaurant business, it is so difficult, especially today. You do it because you love it and you're passionate about it, and it was the happiest time of my life growing up in the business. So, yeah, one day I was in my brother's restaurant eating, and he was short-staffed, and I came home from law. I was working in the Empire State Building, and he was short-staffed when I got up, and I started helping him out, and I'm like, oh no, I got the bug. I said, this is what I should be doing.
Well, clearly your dad got behind you, because didn't he loan you the money to open your first restaurant?
He lent me...
About 12 years ago? Was it 13? 12?
No, 10 years ago.
10.
Don't age me.
You're a young'un.
You are. I opened my first restaurant when I was about 23, 24.
See?
Yes. He did loan me. He didn't want to, and I went to the bank because he didn't want me to do it. He didn't want me to do it. But I don't think he ever thought, I mean, look what's happened in the whole culinary world in the past 10 years. He said, my daughter's more than a restaurateur. She's an entrepreneur now. So I think today he's very proud, but back then he didn't want the life for me. But he did loan me the money, and I paid him back within 8 months, and then I made sure he doubled his money because I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to know I did it on my own. And then ever since then, I kept reinvesting in myself and opening more and more restaurants.
But you're not in the kitchen then, you're the business mind behind it all. And this is what I find the most fascinating about it, because I can barely boil water. But yet I'm so fascinated by the whole industry.
Tell her she wants to open her own restaurant.
I do, I really
Everyone wants
Everybody
to open
does.
their
What is
restaurant.
that? But it's true.
You don't want to. You're smart. You know, I think there's something exciting and enticing and glamorous about the business.
Yeah.
And it is. It's all of those things, but it's also really hard. And you have to be a special person to want it. And you have to love it and breathe it and live it. And only then I think you have a chance of being successful. So
when do you get to a point where you say, okay, this place is solid enough, I'm going to go get another one. I'm going to do it again and again and again.
When I had my first restaurant, Bellini, on 52nd Street, it was about a year, and finally things were really, really busy, and I started gaining confidence. Then I went to culinary school because it was important to know every aspect of the business. And a couple years later, I decided to make that move because it wasn't enough for me to be an owner of one restaurant. I'm like, okay, I created this great thing, but I'm kind of stuck here being the face every night, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a brand and a style of hospitality so that when you come to my restaurant, you get a Donatella experience, and I wanted to grow. So that's when I partnered with David Burke, and we opened up David Burke and Donatella, and that opened to a massive success, thank God.
Certainly did.
Yes.
And one thing, we're just going to have to take a quick break
Sure.
in a second, but Donatella, we also want to hear about, because you ended partnerships, you've closed restaurants, gone on to do
Absolutely.
other things, so that's part of the decision making. When do you know when to say goodbye?
Yes.
But just hold that thought for just a second. 6 minutes after the hour, everybody, and we just want to welcome folks listening on Sirius and XM Radio. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network.
You can call us. We got 2 more hours, 877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And actually, so let's pick up on what Dagan just asked, because I think that is such an intriguing question, too. When do you know to say, okay, this is done, this part of my life is done,
Yes.
I have to move on to the next part?
It's very difficult, but it was one of the best decisions you learn how to make because you get very attached to what you create. And I sold my partnership in David Burke and Donatella last year, and it was so successful. And a lot of people came up to me and said, what happened? What went wrong? And I'm like, nothing went wrong. I actually created this amazing restaurant with an amazing chef, and I knew then it was time. And I actually also felt that the economy was going to take a downturn, and I wanted to sell at the height of the market. This was a very high-end, glamorous restaurant.
How did you feel that?
I felt I was lucky. I was fortunate to work one summer in the restaurant in the early 90s at the height when everything went down, and I worked in my father's restaurant, and I saw 250 covers in the morning and at night, and then a drop of 60% the next day. And I felt there was such a frenzy and an excess, and it was going around in the rest of the country. In New York, we almost feel immune to certain things, and we think we're immune, but we're not. And I knew it was coming. I knew what was going on couldn't sustain itself. There was so much excess. Everything was so easy. You bought an apartment, you sold it the next year for 30% more. It didn't make sense to me, and I didn't trust it. And I felt that people were going to return to value, and that's why my next one of my restaurants, I did Mia Donna, which is very value-driven on 58th Street, and I did it 8 months before the recession was felt here. Although it was being felt in the rest of the country. We were just in denial.
And I'm going to say it wrong, Kefi is same thing.
I mean,
very inexpensive for what you get.
And very extremely successful in this economy.
It's a Greek restaurant,
Yes,
though.
it's Greek. Yes, people always said, why aren't you doing Italian? But I find the restaurant business extremely dynamic. I felt that Greek was untapped, and it was the perfect restaurant in this economy. We opened in December, and we're ragingly successful because we give a restaurant experience, but it's $30 check average, and that's what people want.
You've actually closed a restaurant before, didn't you? I think, wasn't it Donna? Did you close?
Yes.
But take us through the thinking
What
there, because
happened?
you take us through. You talked
Sure.
about separating from a partner and getting out
Sure.
at the right time.
Well,
but
what people don't know about Donna, and my legal background has helped me tremendously.
that was another question. I've got my
Because,
list. I have my list.
Contracts, partnerships, leases. A lot of restaurateurs fail because they don't look at the fine print. But Donna was Bellini. It was my first restaurant. After 9 years, I decided to transform it, and I had a very good relationship with the landlord, and the building became much more valuable because of all these air rights. And all of a sudden, he sold to a very big developer, and they wanted to kick me out. They didn't want me there. So, but I had a very strong lease. I could have stayed there, but as a lawyer, I decided you don't want to fight with your landlord, and I decided to get bought out. So that's why I sold.
So that's when the New York Post named you one of the top 50 most powerful women in New York City, by the way. Way cool. Can you talk now, just quickly about how you made the move into now products?
Yes. Products are tough.
Well, that's why. I mean, but these are
tough.
amazing. I mean,
Yes,
really, you're
these
doing
are-
the basics.
I am.
Tomato sauce, olive oil,
I
cookies.
am. Back to basics. absolutely. These are the building blocks of Italian cuisine, of
Right.
course. You're Sicilian, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
You're almost Italian, right?
Just kidding. Those Northerners, I don't know if they count.
No, I'm South. I'm Naples and Puglia. So.
Yeah, I was going to say you're from
I know,
Puglia.
it's somewhat acceptable.
Actually, I did it, and I make mistakes too. I said I want to create this product. I spent every summer drawing my own sauce in Long Island. We did it in Italy, and I wanted to bring that process to store-bought because most sauces are made with canned tomatoes. These are fresh tomatoes, all fresh ingredients. But I didn't know anything about products, distribution, developing, and I made a lot of business errors. Thank God now
What did you name
I've
one?
learned.
Like what?
Oh my God, I didn't even look at the margins, or I didn't look at the full picture and whether you can make money in products and how much volume you have to do and how to strategically place things. And I just was kind of naive about the whole thing. And it was, in retrospect, I'm like, what was I thinking?
But how would you know? I mean, like that kind of stuff.
Okay, but if you don't know, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Well-
Like, that's when people ask me, I admit my own mistakes. People say, I'm going to open up a restaurant. I'm like, and what do you know about the restaurant?
Donatella, that's why we're so excited that you're here, because again, it's about the successes and how you got there, but also the mistakes. And I think the second thing people call in about, one, they want to open a restaurant, and two, they have a great sauce that they want to package and sell. So you have to call or email us, everybody. If you don't know the number, you can see it, or 877-249-9626 is the number. Donatella Arpaia.
You say my name so well.
I rehearsed it before you came on
That's
the air.
very true. We had a big argument about it. All right, you can call us, you can email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. We have a lot more to talk about. This is the only network that focuses on the entrepreneurial spark you have. So get on the phone. We got about 2 hours left, and we're here for you. We'll be right back.
Donatella Arpaia is our special guest this hour, and also with us to answer your questions about your business in Newton, Massachusetts, Anthony Chen, CEO and managing partner of the Q-Ball Group, a private investment company, venture capitalist. Hey, good to see you, Anthony.
Good to have you back, Anthony.
I know, last time I was here.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Oh, you weren't here.
No, but I've interviewed Anthony before, and hopefully he remembers.
We had fun last time. All right,
Absolutely.
and joining us for
and
Irvine.
Donatella, love your food, Donatella.
Thank you.
Joining us from Irvine, California, we have our resident financial experts, Dani Babb, founder of the Babb Group, and John Rutledge there he is, chairman of Rutledge Capital, a private equity investment firm.
And of
hey,
course,
John.
Donatella Arpaia is still with us. Let's get to a question.
Sure.
Okay. John has written in, my IT service company is only a year old. We have been self-funded and are now out of liquid capital. Where can I go to secure funding, either with grants or business loans? Dani, first I want to toss this out to you. What about the availability of credit loans? The outlook is certainly improving.
Yeah, the outlook is improving. We know that the last quarter, the number of loans made to small businesses did improve by about 50% nationwide. There are some places where it's easier to get money than others, and we talked about those last week. For example, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Utah, Iowa, and Ohio, and you can certainly call those banks in those states, even if you don't live in them. Here's a couple of banks you should check out right now. The #1 small business lender in the country is actually still Wells Fargo. They are making loans. PNC Financial, which is all over the nation. You can find branches. You should check them out. Zion's Bank, I believe that one's in Utah, and then Celtic Bank in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Webster Bank, and those are all up on my website. If you click on forums on drdanibabb.com, you'll get the list of them, and it's updated pretty much at the end of every week.
Donatella, have you found credit issues? Have you been feeling that with all this credit crunch going on?
You can't get, there was always a line of credit available to me in most restaurants, and it's just not available anymore.
So you're feeling it too?
Yes, 100%. And I've been a good customer of all my banks. When I open up a restaurant, there's always a $100,000 line of credit, very easy for me to get, and then all of a sudden I couldn't get it anymore. And I'm someone that's been a long time customer. It's just impossible. Everything froze.
Right. So what changes did you make to cope with that?
I think that I made the changes that a lot of people were, in denial and are making it too late, and then are in situations where you have to look at everything that you're doing. You have to tighten your belt, but you have to do it in a smart way. You have to tighten it in ways so the customer doesn't feel it too, because you still want to bring that. You want to get that customer in, so you have to really go leaner. Your employees have to take uniform 10% pay cuts. I would look at my employees and I say, we can either all take some cuts, or I have to start firing people, and I don't want to do that. And so you have to work together and start making these cuts early and focus on service and what you do, and hope for the best.
Because you didn't want to pass the costs on to your customers.
No, you can't. You can't.
Right.
Especially in New York, there are too many choices. It's too competitive. The clientele is afraid right now. So you have to give more and save where you can. And there are a lot of ways in the restaurant business, and I'm sure in other businesses, there are 100 ways to save money. And instead of looking for this one big idea, there's just a lot of different ways that through the year comes to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's incredible advice.
Yes.
Let's get to the phones. Charlie.
Charlie, on the phone. Charlie from Texas. Hey, Charlie, what's your question?
Yes, I want to go ahead and get into the grocery business. And my question is, where do I find the resources or somebody that can mentor me on how to get started?
Charlie, what kind of grocery business are you talking about, coming from a family who ran a family-owned and operated wholesale grocery business?
Yeah, well, what the idea that I have is getting into a convenient drive-through grocery business where it'd be convenient for the customers to come in, stay in their car, order what they need, and we'll be taking it to their car and on the go.
But it's just an idea and a concept right now, right, Charlie?
Right.
Okay. John Rutledge, it's going to be tough times getting the funding for a concept like this right now. True or no?
It's very tough now for the reasons Donatello taught us, but it's also tough any time to get money to back a grocery store because the margins are so thin. I think the key word that Charlie talked about is getting mentored. You need to find to go somewhere where you can have a boss who knows the grocery business really well. That might be a local store in your area or store chain, probably a specialty food store. They won't have what you're describing, so if you can go there and talk to the boss, you might be able to get them to give you a chance at opening up a new wing of the business to offer a drive-through service using their inventory and their working capital. You can learn from that and then take that out to your own store later, maybe even backed by your boss.
Anthony, I'm going to throw this out to you, though, because, I shop online now. I shop online, I order my food, I drive up, they throw it in my trunk, I go home. So what would he need to do to, I guess, differentiate himself from the ShopRite, Stop and Shops, Pathmarks of the world that are offering this service already?
Service.
Well, I think it's a good point. I think one of the first things, Charlie, you need to do is define your business. What business definition are you really in? Are you in a specialty grocery store business, or are you in the convenience business of just delivering food? Because suddenly your competition becomes Fresh Direct, it becomes Peabot, it becomes all the names that you mentioned. And I think that's the first starting point. I'm not sure how you immediately differentiate. It sounds like you're taking a lot of impulse purchase, but then I would look at where that's worked. There's been concepts like take and bake in the pizza side. Look at what types of goods really work in that format and see if you can have a much more edited set of goods.
Right. And I can attest to this, Donatella, because we have
a business,
a local supermarket. They own 2 of them. That's it. Caroluzzi's. And it is unbelievable. And you would think, you see it, and I don't know how it exists until I go in, and it's the service that does it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again and again and again. And even more so in this time, there's a return to service and human contact. And I think the people that are coming to my restaurants now that's making the difference are the ones that I've always treated well through the years. The arrogance is gone in the restaurant business, and there was a lot of it. There's no more of these hostess saying 5 or 11 o'clock. And people remember. So I always tried, and now all of a sudden they're calling the customers saying, come in, like, well, you didn't want me then. Why, now my money, it's harder. I'm going to go to the places that have been good to me. And to your point before, I think you should probably go and work in a grocery. First of all, see the reality of it. I tell people in the restaurant business, if you want to be in the restaurant business, intern, see, and then define what's missing and find your niche. And to the point with my products, it's doing really well now. But why didn't I go to someone who was a specialist and say, show me everything, teach me everything? The information was there. We just had to look for it instead of just being a little blind and instinctual about it. So
I love this stuff.
I was smiling because I was
know,
just
it's so
hearing
cool.
such great information.
I'm going to go intern at a restaurant. Okay, more answers to your questions ahead, so keep those calls and emails coming. Call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
We're the Fox Business Network. We're up, alive, and fired up every weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Breaking news. This is a Fox News alert. We are tracking Hurricane Bill, which is headed for the United States. Dominica Davis is here with us with the latest. Dominica, what's going on?
Hi, guys. Well, we're still monitoring this Category 2 storm, which has now just started to make its northerly turn, and that means it is going to be a big problem for parts of Canada like Nova Scotia. But for the East Coast, we are looking at some pretty large waves that will be only getting worse throughout the day, and also some strong gusty winds. So let's go ahead and show you the satellite. We have winds at 100 miles per hour right now. It is a Category 2, expected to diminish over the next couple of hours. It's going to get a little bit weaker as it moves further to the north. The current track right now keeps it out in the water. We have two things going on. This Hurricane Bill that is making for some gusty winds along the East Coast and also some large ocean swells, but we also have a cold front moving in. So we have flooding concerns for the East Coast, but that is actually what is keeping Bill out in the water for us. So you can see that path takes it off to the north. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect for Cape Cod and the islands. They're going to be in the closest to the path of Bill. So winds will certainly start to pick up by the end of the day today, along with the problems with the ocean swells, waves. This is probably not the best beach weekend, and certainly a lot of beaches, not only from New York, but all the way up through New England, are closed today, or at least seeing some big restrictions. So that's what we're facing for today. Tomorrow, this system moves much further to the north, and we'll see the weather get better from south to north through our Sunday. So today, stay off the beach and just go relax. Stay inside.
Thanks, Dominica. Thankfully, though, it's not going to be that awful for us. That storm last night was killer, though, I got to tell you.
Well, clearly it's not so awful that somebody isn't standing outside
That's right.
ready and waiting with a question.
So we're going out to the plaza. Bejan from Queens is outside. Hey, Bejan, what's your question?
My question is, what's going on in the city and people losing the job every day more and more, and why this companies going overseas and people like us losing the job, and there is no chance to do business anymore in the city.
Thanks, Bejan.
John Rutledge, it's a great question. I mean, if we continue to raise our tax rates here in the United States, we're going to keep pushing more and more people, more and more companies overseas. They're going to headquarters somewhere else.
You know, that's true, Tracy. Bejan is exactly right that we have problem with employment and jobs. But Bejan, it is not the companies going overseas that's making that happen. They are losing jobs overseas, too. This has been a worldwide recession. Driving business offshore with increased taxes, increased health care costs through Obama Pelosi Care, and other regulations happening now in Washington are very destructive. But near term, the biggest problem for jobs is banks will not loan businesses, small businesses, money. That's where they get the money to pay the payroll to produce the products. Those problems will end. They always end, but they're very, very tough right now. And making America safe for small business warriors is really the most important thing to do, and it's really what this show's about.
Anthony, it is. Anthony, what are you seeing in your investment companies in terms of how they are coping with a much more complicated regulatory environment, taxes that are already going up and will probably keep going up?
Yeah. Well, we've seen this for some time. I mean, being in the venture early growth stage of investing, You know, excess regulation. I mean, you take something like Sarbanes-Oxley or other compliance issues. For the small business owner, which makes up, you know, 95+% of all businesses in America, very, very tough to stay in compliance. Increased taxes, increased burden on the small business owner, very, very tough. Couple that to John's point and Donatella's earlier that you can't get lines of credit. Just a tough environment. I think you have to buckle down. You have to get to a great value proposition and get your businesses generating cash flow faster. And we've been, you know, fortunate with most of our businesses to be able to do that. But Bejan's point on jobs being lost, I mean, it's going to be tough in the short term, and I think, you know, people are just going to have to bear down. And the biggest thing we can do is just enhance and increase consumer confidence. It's a lot about the consumer sentiment right now and how they feel.
Donatella, you were saying, though, you're doing what you can to keep your people.
I am, and it's difficult. And the restaurant business, more than anywhere else, is a place where you can start as a dishwasher and even become an owner one day.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. I have my busboys that have been with me that are proud and have taken their kids through medical school. And it's such an industry of immigrants, more so than any other industry. And, you know, one day I woke up and I just said, my God, I'm responsible for like over 150 people that look up to me every day. And it's really hard. And I had to make them part of the problem and the solution. I told them, let's give more service, let's care, we're going to make it through. And it's really, really important to keep that energy going that transmits to the clientele. And hopefully you just have to keep at it. I mean, I just opened up a hair salon, okay? And it's because my hairstylist for many years, who was extremely talented, couldn't get a line of credit. That's why. He couldn't get a line of credit, and he had everything in order. He worked very, very hard. And so I was his, you know, an angel investor. And I know he's going to be very successful.
I want to talk more about that when we come back. And I know Anthony has something to say, because you're an investor in Mini Lux, which is a chain of, like, the Starbucks of nail salons,
Love it.
Right, Anthony?
Starbucks of nail salons.
Yeah.
We got a lot in common. I've got burger restaurants and nail salons. So let's
so we're
go.
going to talk. Again, that's basically my life.
Burgers and nails?
Food and hair.
I mean,
Food and beauty.
Thank you. And more answers to your questions when we come back. And a viewer is up ahead who wants to know if you need a financial advisor to open a restaurant. Well, we have one here for you.
Sure do.
Free of charge.
So if you have any questions, email us, call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us your money at foxbusiness.com. This is the Fox Business Network, and we're up on a Saturday. We got an hour and a half, so get in touch. We'll be right back. I love that graphic. Welcome back. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network.
I'm Dagan McDowell. That's my girl, Tracy Burns. And now it's time for the pitch. Tracy's holding it up very beautifully, I might add.
Little Vanna White.
This week's pitch is a boost in a bottle with 0 calories, 0 carbs, and no sugar. Scott Ferrari is the CEO and co-founder of JoJo Energy Drink. And Scott, you are pitching to Anthony Chan, CEO of the Cue Ball Group. The photos, the drink speak for themselves, but you speak now, Anthony.
Great. My co-founder and I, about 3 years ago, we were seeing the energy drink market with about 280 energy drinks, and they're all basically the same garbage: caffeine, taurine, lots of sugar, really hot, a lot of bad stimulants in them, not good for you at all. So we're family people. We have kids. We don't want our kids drinking this stuff. We don't want the millions of kids out there drinking it. So we felt that we could create something better, something that was healthier. So about 3 years of research and development later, we created JoJo Energy. Now, JoJo Energy has a twist cap infusion technology, which is proprietary, and there's nothing else like it. So we keep all of the formulation in the cap. So when you twist the cap, as you can see here, you can see all the formulation going into 100% natural spring water. Okay, there's no sugar, no carbs. It tastes great. It is great. We have great things like acai berry and pomegranate, which are antioxidants. We have all the vitamin. You get 100% of the vitamin B's, C, and folic acid at time of activation. And there are super nutrients like cognizin, which is used for Alzheimer's patients for focus and mental acuity. There's just a lot of great things in it. It tastes great. It is great. We started moving out about 9 weeks ago. We started selling product in Long Island. We've opened up 2,800 locations, and we're building major traction. And it really is, I know you say it a lot on this channel, but it is a game changer.
Anthony, go ahead and ask Scott some questions. What do you want to know from him?
Well, Scott, you got a great name, Scott Ferrari. That should be able to sell anything. So let's start with that. Scott, love the space you're playing in. It's you're part of a great, big, massive markets, and all boats rise in a rising tide. The downside of that, as you know, as you mentioned, a few years ago it was 280 of these functional energy drinks. Today I think it's about 150 to 200 of these energy and functional beverages being released every single year right now. How do you think about, if you think about all those differentiation points you mentioned, what do you think is the most important one for you?
Well, we just, we're completely different. We take all the best attributes from all the energy drinks, which really don't have many, because you're always making a compromise when you drink an energy drink. Yes, you're getting the rage, you're getting the energy, but a half an hour later, you're crashing hard. You're taking in a ton of sugar, a ton of carbs. With JoJo, there is no compromise. And besides that, you're getting everything at 100% potency at time of activation. We take the best attributes from all the vitamin-enhanced waters as well, which really don't give you any vitamins at the end of the day, because all the vitamins sitting in water, they dissipate days and weeks after being bottled or canned. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about, but we're gonna spread the word and get it out.
So I would say on that one, Scott, I think you have to emphasize the authenticity part. I mean, Donatella was alluding to this earlier. I mean, in today's environment, I mean, the consumer really wants to feel authenticity. And in this market space, there's a lot of false claims. I noticed you had a great partner, has a lot of years experience in this space. You mentioned the twist cap. In our business, we've seen probably 3 or 4 people with not exactly the same, but very, very similar release caps. We've looked at 4 or 5 of these in the past year. And the challenge really is about, how can you get out there and differentiate the positioning? One of the things I'd ask is, how has the sell-through been in these 9 weeks as you've gone through those distribution points? How quickly has it moved off, and have they given you enough linear feet out in those distribution points?
Where there's education in the stores, the product moves like it can't stay on the shelves. We are moving a lot of product. As a matter of fact, we just launched in participating 7-Elevens in the tri-state area, which is very exciting to us. Yeah. We're in talks with Hess right now as we speak. So we're building major traction, and we're actually way ahead of the game in only 9 weeks. It actually took Vitamin Water 4 years to build 4,000 accounts. And we already have 2,800 in 9 weeks. So.
And Scott, question for you. Why did you choose to target the male population? I mean, in this space, it's really interesting. About 95% of people coming out, they go target the male population. But, basically what you have is a Red Bull meets vitamin water. I mean, that's a crude hybrid description. But, no one's really targeted women in this space.
Thank you. That was what I was thinking.
I'm glad that you said that, because this actually...
everyone, the packaging, you think of Monster, you think of Powerade, you think of Red Bull.
Well, we have a new packaging that is coming out. You can see it now on the screen. That actually, what we are now is the energy drinks of the world. We call dark energy. We are, and we trademark the 2 words, good energy. So JoJo's Good Energy. It's one of the first energy drinks that actually does appeal to women. And yes, we did originally go out to target the 13 to 26 male demographic. But when we started selling the product, we saw the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60 somethings drinking this drink and loving it.
And what do you need in terms of capital now?
We're looking for $10 million to launch this product the way it deserves to be launched. We need to get this into the hands of millions of Americans to try it for themselves. We're not there. A lot of these other companies, they claim things that they have, but they really don't. And we have so many brand attributes, we don't even know which ones to list first. That's first of all. We really have a game changer here.
Scott, you're looking for $10 million?
$10 million, yes.
Anthony, can you give him a verdict, please?
Well, I think it's early. I think, to go out, I know you guys have put in a lot of your own personal capital to this. I think at $10 million, you need to definitely get a little bit more proof of concept. It'd probably be tough in this environment. The tough thing in this segment you're playing in is, of course, the capital intensity that's required and the intensity of competition. We'd probably want to wait and see what's happening in 6 months. I think you have a few $1 million into the business, see how that runs. And I just encourage you to look what other people have done in the Bare Naked and other grassroots. I mean, go very local first. Think big, start small, then grow fast. And really, really emphasize the authenticity of the claims. If you really have that, bring that out. That's the first attribute you should emphasize. And think about getting real customer research to see if people really love the taste, because most of the stuff out there tastes, like you say, pretty crappy. So if you got something that tastes great and has real claims, packaged nice, you've got a chance.
Thank you. Appreciate
it tastes
it. We do. It does taste great, by the way, and thousands of people will agree with you.
I like it.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Donatella.
I think you made an excellent point about women, and I've always, even in the restaurant business, they used to not cater to women, and women are always the ones that determine and make the reservation and dictate, and often women are buying for their men. But to me, what I don't like about it is not the taste, because it's great, is it appeals and it looks like a fake drink. This is a male, testosterone-driven JoJo. So I look at it and I don't know that it's authentic. Even though it says good, it could be. I look at it on the market and it'll say that it'll seem artificial to me. So maybe if you emphasize and maybe cater toward the woman and the authenticity, that this in fact is natural and it's not full of JoJo. I think caffeine. There's caffeine in here.
No, I appreciate that. And we did. These are our first generation labels. We have new labels coming out in the next few weeks.
Who did you
We got
hire?
rid of the.
Look at women. to
No,
look at the graphics,
actually
because
no.
this
We
is
got
all-
rid of the character, and we have Who Is JoJo, and we've definitely improved and softened up the lines a lot. Put a lot more swooshes in there, so it does appeal to women. It's not carbonated. There's no sugar. It's
But it's
spring
not
water.
on the label. Maybe it
What's
should say,
not on the
instead
label?
of
Yeah, I think what
endurance,
I
speed,
think-
and focus, it should say no
Exactly.
sugar, no this, no that, because that's what women look
It
at.
does on the new label,
Oh, good.
and you can see it on it. We have
Great.
it. We sent it over to you guys.
Okay.
Dave Palumbo, though.
Anthony,
is a
did you
big
want to
fan.
say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think, you have to start with the root that this is authentic, that you obviously have a great passion around it, so that's amazing. But I think Donatella, I mean, look at how she's packaged her goods. Go and talk and speak to a lot of end user women. It sounds like you're doing that, but, work with the firm that can appeal to that demographic. I think you have an opportunity there. I mean, I think even the words, healthy, revitalizing. I mean, this is one of the very few things, you're right on your positioning, whereby you get an energy boost without feeling the guilt. I think that's a distinctiveness, right? And I think you have to go out and understand what women want.
I actually think, you know what?
Yeah,
And
your
this is-
verdict, because you drink.
I actually like it, but
You drink a lot of energy drinks.
I do all this stuff. I'm in the vitamin shop 4 times a week. I know that Dave Palumbo is a big fan, and he's like a big musclehead. I'm into all these muscleheads, but when I walk into the vitamin shop, there's absolutely nothing on the shelf that screams, "Hey, chick." It's all, "Hey, you goon with no neck." That's really what, right? So it's, and I'm related to all those goons with no neck, so I don't feel bad saying that. But so I do think that there's a huge opportunity for someone like me who happens to have a neck, and likes to drink this stuff.
Our finger's on the pulse. We're listening to what the consumer wants. That's why everything we're doing is grassroots. And we're out there. We have about 40 energists that are out at different events every week. We have about 20 events a week, and we're getting the word out. And we're hearing what the women have to say, but they're embracing the drink. Long Island's
That's
embraced the
good.
drink.
It's really good.
And we want to get out to the rest of the nation.
I drink a lot of them too,
And
it's really good.
I drink a
And
lot of
Scott-
energy drinks, and Anthony, I'm a Red Bull drinker, sugar or not,
Yep.
and it's going to take a lot to convert
Well,
me
we've done
to something
focus
else.
groups with
Scott, one
50
thing-
hardcore
Scott.
Red Bull drinkers, and they all converted. So it's how it makes
Scott,
you feel.
one-
It's not how it tastes either. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I'd recommend, I went around to a bunch of CVS's and 7-Elevens before the program, and it's unbelievable. When you look at the cooler and that SKU proliferation of all that, testosterone, big, bold graphic, SKUs all over, there is no product-facing element that jumps out. It's dominated, first of all, by obviously Gatorade, Red Bull, and Monster. But one thing you can try to do to test with women and consumers is do fake mock-ups of a cooler with your new product facings and ask if people can identify and if your drink jumps out. Because eventually you're not going to be able to do all the grassroots.
Okay.
And right now you're seeing like 40
Anthony, we
different
lost
SKUs
your
out
mic
there.
real quick. But Scott, listen, best of luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
there
you
was
having
a lot
me
of
on.
information there.
Enjoy the JoJo. I think you're going to love it.
Thank
you very
we
much.
gave you a
Sorry
lot
about
to
that.
work with,
Appreciate it.
but it is yummy. And Tracy's already sucked down half a bottle.
I did. I really did. And I'm
Wow.
keep in touch.
You're going to be,
Thanks.
you're
You're
going to
not
be
alone,
buzzed.
by the way.
You're going to be
Yeah.
buzzed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Buzzed, but it's healthy.
Again,
There you go.
Scott
It's a healthy buzz.
Scott Ferrari, JoJo. Thank you very much, Scott.
Keep in touch with us.
Yes,
All right,
we will.
and
Yes.
remember, if you have an idea that you want to pitch to a venture capitalist, let us know about it. This could be the opportunity of a lifetime. You tell us the product, and we find you the person, and maybe we'll get you some money. So email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com, and you could be pitching your idea here with us next week. We still have plenty of time for your calls and your emails. 877-249-9626. You can always email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
And in the next hour, Jib Jab. Two brothers who came together and created a sensation. How they're growing the business. You're going to talk to them. Send us your questions. We've got answers for them. We'll be right back here on the Fox Business Network. Your questions, your money, your business here on the Fox Business Network. Usually we do this earlier in the show, but I didn't want to let it go. True false time, Tracy Burns. We were talking taxes, and you're a tax girl.
Okay.
So I thought this would be appropriate this week because the golden era of secretive Swiss banking might just be over. With that settlement this past week between the U.S. and the Swiss governments, those two governments reaching a deal as part of an ongoing crackdown on offshore tax evasion. UBS is going to fork over the names of several thousand of possible tax cheats. The IRS will get, quote, the identities and account information for certain United States customers of UBS's cross-border business. Who will get hung out to dry by the tax man? Wait and see. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the more famous tax avoidance cases in history. Quickly. It's going to be a quick one.
Okay.
We'll do a little, you're going to love this.
Okay.
Number one, call this country's #1 tax cheat. Telecom entrepreneur Walter Anderson failed to report $365 million in income, squirreling it away overseas, offshore, and was sentenced to just 9 years in prison. True or false? #1 tax cheat.
9 years? That's it?
Yep.
True.
Yeah. Ding dong. True. #1 tax cheat.
Yeah.
It was almost $400 million.
Sounds like peanuts right now, doesn't it?
I know. Here's my next favorite one. And John Rellis can jump in if he wants to. Not that John's a tax cheat, but just he knows history like the back of his hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Number two, an even more famous tax cheat. Al Capone was sentenced to 45 years in prison for tax evasion.
It wasn't that long.
Believe,
Was it that
yeah,
long,
but
John?
John?
I believe that to be true with no foundation in knowledge whatsoever.
He was convicted, but not 45 years.
Exactly.
11.
Yeah.
Al Capone, and he got
his
out.
His problem was that he had syphilis at the time, so 11 years equals 45 years.
That's very true, actually. But it was a short term because he was ill.
They let him out in less than 8 because he had syphilis and died, I think, in Miami or near
Why'd you hit
Miami.
me when you said Miami?
Because you like Miami. All right. Richard Pryor served just
I love
10
Miami.
days in a Los Angeles County jail for tax evasion. True or false?
That's true.
That's true. Ding dong.
I know my criminals.
All 4 of the founding members of the Ramones were accused of tax evasion in the 80s.
Sure.
No, false. Made it up. No, those are good guys. That was false, just to be clear. Comedian Sinbad and singer Dionne Warwick each owe more than $2 million to the state of California.
Oh,
or
that's
false?
true.
That is true. They
Yes.
were on the list of people who owe the state's desperate. The state needs money.
Coming after you.
And finally, an IRS commissioner was once busted for tax evasion. True or false?
False.
True.
Who?
Joseph Noonan, famous commissioner during the 1940s, was busted for tax evasion in the early 50s, allegedly He made money on a bet that Harry Truman would win the presidential election and did not pay taxes on the winnings, allegedly.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Okay, in the next hour, we get back to business. Actually, in the next break. So we got a little tax break there. In the next hour, we're talking about starting, running, growing your own business. So keep those questions coming to us. 877-249-9626.
You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And if you have to run out, you can still listen to us on Sirius Channel 145 or XM Channel 168. We'll be right back.
Well, if you got the poison, I've got the remedy. The remedy is the experience. This is a dangerous liaison. I says the comedy is that it's serious. This is a strange enough new play on words. I said the
I don't know why I have this question, because it's from Virginia. West Virginia. Hello, that's entirely different now, isn't it? All right, here's the question. Do you need a good financial advisor to open a restaurant? If so, where do you turn? I guess, Donatella, this begs the question of, do you have any business background? And if you don't, you got to find yourself some help.
Yes, and I think, though, there are a lot of people that do consult for restaurants, and our financial advisors have not worked in the industry, and often they give the wrong advice. And I hate to say that, but I think that you have to really do a lot of research and ask a lot of different people, work in a lot of different businesses. And I do, I have a lot of people that just randomly write me letters and ask to sit down with me and talk to me. And I think it's almost better to find people that are very, very successful at what they do and go to them, as opposed to someone who never worked in the business and is consulting about the restaurant business.
And do you talk to them when they write to you?
Absolutely. I love it. I love to share. I love to, when my employees go on to become a restaurateur, I'm the first one I'm one of their first clients. And I love to be supportive. I think it's all about growing. As long as you do things professionally and you handle yourself the right way, I love to share.
People just have to ask and get out there.
Absolutely.
Amanda has written
Just show up.
Yeah, that's half the battle. That is half the battle.
Just do it.
Well, this is another food question. Amanda has written in. She's in New York. I have a great idea for a cooking show on the Food Network, but have no industry connections. How do I network and pitch the idea? That's a big leap.
A lot of people, a lot of people have good ideas. The good thing is they have these competition shows like Finding the Next Food Network Star. Right. And so there are more entrees for just people in it. I would suggest making a tape, coming up with a really good concept, and it's not just an idea. Like the other gentleman before said, I have an idea to do this, but do some more background, study all the shows. Can you articulate well? Do you know how to cook, or is it just an idea? Do you want to be the star? And I do think you can write letters to all the network producers, bring a tape, a letter, and send out, make 100 copies, and be persistent and call. And if you're good at what you do, someone will notice.
The critical thing about that, or anything in your business, and you have executed it spectacularly, is creating a brand.
Yes.
Know what you want to be. What kind of image do you want to present?
Absolutely.
Because that's going to be critical if you want a TV show. It's like, what's your angle? What's your pitch?
Yes, and I'm going to get a TV show before this caller. But I think that, I've been offered a lot of TV shows, and it was because it was very appealing sometimes, but I knew I wasn't going to be happy or comfortable with the brand that was being projected, and you have to protect your brand. And oftentimes it's more important what you say no to than what you say yes to. It's very, very important to protect and to stick by what you do, and this feeling of authenticity in everything that we do, it comes through. People watch TV and they decide whether they like you or not in a second, and it's you're either real or not. So I hope that whatever idea you have, it's coming from what you are, and it's just not this removed idea, and that really comes across. People are looking for authenticity all the time.
Anthony, that's in everything we do, right? In order to believe in your product, you just got to stand behind it to the bitter end.
Yeah, I just want to build on that point because it's so important. I mean, we get so many questions. Do you need a financial advisor? Do you need a marketing consultant? Do you need a brand consultant? It really the starting point has to be that authenticity, that passion, that heart, that artisanal craftsmanship, that purpose bigger than product. And if you don't have that, all the other stuff is process. That stuff can come after. And many, many times, we see 400 people, 500 people pitch us a year, And most people don't understand. Most times we reject them because they don't have that authenticity
Anthony,
and that purpose.
Thank you for that.
As authentic as it comes, Anthony.
Anthony, thank you so much for that incredible, incredible stuff this hour. Anthony Chan, CEO and managing partner of the Cue Ball Group, and Donatella Arpaia. Didn't forget you. More from them when we come back next. From 48th Street and Avenue of the Americas, we're covering America here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Dagan McDowell with my girl, Tracy Burns. We want to hear from you. We're talking about stimulating this economy all by ourselves through our businesses.
We sure are. So pour yourself a cup of coffee and watch, or put it down and give us a call, 877-249-9626, or email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
One of the funniest websites on the internet. You know it. If you don't, shame on you. JibJab.com. The site made a name by adding a touch of humor to politics, everyday life. And take a look at this.
Oh my goodness.
Girl, that was good.
If only I were that good.
Who deserves credit for that? Brothers and Jib Jab founders, Evan and Greg Spiridelis, are with us, guys. That's the most enviable thing about what you do, is because you make people laugh for a living, Greg.
We always say we're very, very lucky to make a living making things that make people laugh. So,
when you were, but guys, you got to talk about your background, because you started the business in a garage in Brooklyn. It sounds like like you made it up. And Greg, you went to Wharton.
Yeah.
And how did you? Did you ever envision this is where you would be 10 years later?
Never. I had been in investment banking for a bunch of years, and then I went to business school and did my MBA. And I was 99, and the internet was really just becoming widespread. And Evan was, an accomplished independent animator, and we had just kind of started experimenting with what it means to produce and distribute content over the web. And after I graduated, we decided to start Jib Jab.
So you graduate with a Wharton degree, and now you're hanging out in a garage. And I mean, to me, that's the most amazing part about it. You have this degree. You basically could do anything, because when you graduated, the market was still hot. And then what?
Yeah,
you just start
really
screwing
hot.
around on the web?
Yeah, I was just kind of fascinated by the web and what it would mean for being able to produce and distribute content. So, the life of an investment banker seemed, I had done it for a number of years, and it just seemed like it was time to make a fresh start. And Evan and his friends were doing such incredible stuff with off-the-shelf technology that it felt really natural to kind of go do something entrepreneurial.
And I'll also say this, all of his Wharton friends and banking friends thought he was crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure they did, but at the same time, Greg is working midnights probably. He looks over at you, Evan, and you're having this good time hanging out with your graphics friends. I could actually see the appeal. And so how'd you get him over to the dark side?
Who brought who to the dark side?
Yeah, which is the dark side? That's the question. But it was good. I mean, it was awesome. I was, a little older, about 30 years old, and Evan opened me up to a whole new world. And I think, to the same extent, I helped him see some things on the business side as well. So it's been a great partnership.
Evan, what's really amazing is that you survived the .com bust, and it was just by plugging along and pushing through and coming up with ways that you could make money. I remember You had the nasty Santa gag gifts that were in like Spencer's gifts after the dot-com bust. And it was just figuring out a way to just push through and make some money.
Yeah, we're nothing if not relentless. I mean, we work pretty hard. We have a great time, but we work pretty hard, and I'll say it helps to have a really sharp brother who can identify opportunities before they pop up and present themselves to, you know.
And a brother who can actually make the things that other people want. So again, that's why it's been such a good partnership, is that we each have very kind of distinct specialties, but I think we also kind of cross into each other's areas in little ways that are helpful to each of us.
Well,
and, you know, with the dot-com bust, I would say the one thing is just like constantly trying to find ways to make enough money to keep the business going until we could ultimately have some scale and some success, which took about 5 years.
Right. You got venture capital money in a few years ago, 2006, I think. So you really went to the dark side then. How's that changed?
Well, you know, we were in business 6.5 years before we raised venture capital, and we always bootstrapped the business. So for 6.5 years, at any given point, we had about 2 months of cash in the bank, and typically we're reinventing the business model when we had 2 months of cash. So after, in 2004, we had a really big successful political parody called This Land.
Hold your
breath.
Hold your breath, Greg, because we just need to take a quick break. It's 6 minutes after the hour, and we want to say hello to folks listening on Sirius and XM. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns.
And if you have a question about starting your own small business, we want to hear from you. Email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. You can always call us 877-249-9626.
Well, Greg mentioned
This Land.
This Land. Let's watch some of This Land, just real quick.
This land is your land. This land is my land. I'm a Texas tiger. You're a liberal wiener. I'm a great crusader. You're a Herman Munster. This land will surely vote for me.
This land is your land. This land is my land. I'm an intellectual. You're a stupid dumbass. I'm a Purple Heart winner. And yes, it's true, I won it thrice. This land will surely vote for me.
You have more walls.
Now, my face hurts from smiling. That never, ever gets old. But we interrupted you, Greg. You just pick up where you left off, but I couldn't let you get
it. After This Land, we really kind of had this brand and this ability, you know, people knew about Jib Jab. And so that was when we took venture capital to really be able to accelerate our growth and our productions and what we were doing. And in terms of the dark side, we work with Polaris Venture Partners, and we'll give them a huge plug because they are amazing partners, not just, you know, writing the check, which I think is really important if you're raising venture money, but helpful in every single way, partnerships, other relationships. It's been, raising that money has been great for us in lots and lots of ways.
But what I love the most about you guys is you're kind of like a yin-yang to each other, and you know your boundaries, you know who could do what. You know, our small business experts are here, Dani Babb and John Rutledge, and one of the things they always talk about is know your limitations and bring people in who need, you know, where you need help. And so you have your Wharton degree, believe it or not, and as painful as probably all those iBanking years were, are probably such a huge help to you right now, you know, to help out, really keep your business growing.
Yeah, I think especially since we've grown, that background, that finance background has been just enormously helpful. But, you know, don't forget, when you start your small business, you're like, you know, the top finance guy,
the janitor,
the janitor, and everything else. So, you know, yeah, the Wharton skills helpful, and, you know, thank you, Mom, for, you know, making us clean our rooms. I'm assuming that helped as well.
But guys, what about now? You've celebrated your 10-year anniversary this year. How are you making money? Because it's a subscription-based website. So what's now and what's next?
What's now and what's next? Well, what we realized about 2 or 3 years ago now is that people aren't going to pay for just watching comedy. No one's going to pay to watch a 2-minute video when they can go to YouTube and watch 1 billion of them for free. So how do we add value to that? It's enabling people to express themselves and share laughs. So it's less about us trying to make you laugh and helping you make your friends laugh. And that's really been the goal, and I think that there's value there outside of just making funny little videos.
And that people will pay for. What really opened our eyes was the fact that the e-card business 3 years ago was that the e-card business is a very, very large business online, and that we had the story and production chops to go after that market and introduce kind of a fresher, hipper, younger product, and that's been working very well for us.
Are you making money, guys? Profitable?
We're not profitable yet, but it's within sight. We can see it coming.
He stuttered a little.
There's a light. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's good.
We like to hear that.
And the great thing for us is, and we used to do advertising-based business, which is really tough because you're constantly catering to the advertiser. What's great about the membership model that we have now is we answer to the members. We produce content that the members like the video you saw with your doing the dance. Those are things people can make on our website, and to the extent we can give them those tools and that content to make their friends laugh, there's a good value exchange. People feel good for when they buy a membership.
Guys, you're sticking with us the whole hour, and we're so excited. I can say it, Jib Jab. I think I said it well. Greg and Evans.
That was pretty good.
That was good.
Yeah,
good job.
I'm a fan. I'm a devoted fan.
Yeah, Dagan's been so fired about you guys coming on all week. We're psyched to have you.
That's great. That's great.
See, they don't know I watched This Land like 8 times this week, and I'm still chuckling. Evan and Greg Spiridelis are with us the whole hour. Also, of course, you know who's here. Dani Babb and John Rutledge are going to be here. And then Mark Suster from GRP Partners. So keep the questions coming, and we'll have answers.
877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. We'll be right back.
So how am I doing since you did what you done to me? I can't lie, sometimes cry when I think of how it used to be. I keep my friends with me, I stay busy, and I don't get much sleep. Baby, that's how I'm doing since you did.
Hey, close the door. Hey, whoa, hey, what's going on here? Hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? Oh, dude. What's she doing? What's that white stuff? Hey, what's that? What's that powder? It's so fluffy. Look at it. Hey, guys, where's Steve going? Put me down. Put me down. I don't stop it. Where are they taking Steve? Put me down. Quit swinging me through the... Huh? Oh my God! No, he just killed Steve. No, not me. No, I'm too young to die. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm jumping. I'm jumping. No, don't do it. No, don't jump. Don't jump. Oh no! Make her stop. She's a killing machine. Hey.
Jib Jab. Greg and Evan Spiridelis, the founders of JibJab.com. My eyes are actually watering. Guys, thank you. They're here the whole hour to answer your questions about starting your own business or running it or growing it. Also, our all-stars here for the rest of the hour. Mark Suster is back with us, a partner with GRP Partners in Los Angeles. Actually, he's in a studio, I think, right across the street from those guys.
Yeah.
And, of course, Evan and Greg Spiridelis are with us. And, of course, Dani Babb, founder of the Babb Group, Dani, and John Rutledge, chairman of Rutledge Capital. We've got an email. You want to get to it?
David in Kansas writes, how can I find a good accountant and lawyer to help me start my business? Should I call my local SBA, Small Business Association office, or is there a smarter way? Dani, how'd you go find your people?
I found them by going online and finding what other people were using and had good reputation. There's a well-known website out there called Angie's List where people actually go in and they say what their experience was, say with their plumber and so on, The same sorts of websites exist for businesses. I have a list of them on my website you can go to and click on the link, so that's an option. Check out your local SCORE chapter. They often have a list of organizations that you can work with, but I really prefer to find people that others work with, because you can also ask questions that are pretty hard to ask on the phone or ask a SCORE chapter, which is, how much does it cost? And that matters a lot. You can find out what the bang for the buck is by getting referrals.
John Rutledge, I don't think we can overstate the importance of having a trusted, good accountant and attorney at your side, regardless of what you're doing.
It's good to have them. It's also good to have them not on the payroll and not on a retainer. So I think the only way to find these guys, as Dani said, is by referral from someone you trust who's a friend in business. That way you know what it's like to work with somebody. Then after you identify them, you can go out and check whether they leave a bad trail behind them or stinky relationships. But you've got to find someone who is easy to work with based on a reference or an advice from someone you already know.
Mark, that's the best way to do it, isn't it? Word of mouth, ask people, ask peers, who do they use?
That's exactly right. There's absolutely nothing that you'll do as an entrepreneur where the number one recommendation for me isn't going to be to go out and meet the other people who are in your community doing similar type businesses. They'll be able to tell you which lawyers to work with, which accountants to work with. And frankly, you ought to be networking with these lawyers and working with them far before you even start your business. And if they see potential in what you're doing, a lot of times you'll get a little bit of pro bono input as well, which is great.
I like pro bono.
Evan and Greg, how are you, because again, you started just the two of you, and how have you coped with, as you got bigger, kind of the legal and tax headaches that you've surely had to deal with?
Yeah, I think, you know, when, to Mark's point, initially it was all referral based. So we found an accountant and a lawyer based on referral. And then, interestingly enough, over time, it's been it's evolved as our legal needs have evolved and become more sophisticated, from, you know, just setting up the business to patent cases, you know, and all kind, you know, and This Land, we had a lawsuit against us for use of the song. So it's typically evolved, and sometimes we wind up using attorneys who at one point or another were at on the opposite side of the table from us. We go, that guy was good, we should work with him. And,
That's good.
So, you know, it hasn't been unusual for us to find our help on the other side of the table.
Woody Guthrie sued you guys for using the song?
No, it wasn't the Guthrie family. The rights to the song belonged to somebody else, but we got through that pretty well. So
it was through the publisher.
Yeah.
And I just want to give a shout out, because I think Fox News, Brian Wilson was the first one to put you on national TV when you did This Land, wasn't it?
That's right.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. It was that Saturday. I think.
It was like 2 days after we launched it, and
we got a phone call. It was pretty amazing.
And the next thing we knew, our servers were melting and smoking, and we're trying to like contain it from that point forward.
So. That's so cool.
So we love you guys, spreading the love.
That's really cool. And Brian Wilson, we love to death. All right, we're going to go to an email.
Absolutely.
Mary in Arizona writes, I am planning to start a Christian bookstore to sell new and used books. How can I test the market? Dani Babb?
Well, some good news for Mary, actually. Second-hand goods, including books, are up 19% since the beginning of this year. So that's an excellent statistic that will hopefully motivate her to continue in this business. In terms of testing the market, I would probably take a bunch of books or the things that you would be selling to a local fair or a local market. You know, for example, in New York City, not here in California, we have them all the time. There's street fairs where people can go, swap meets and so on, and purchase used and new goods at discounted rates, and see what type of market there is. But also leave a business card there that says "Follow me at" with a website that you're going to hopefully have up. Even if it's got some basic information about your company, start building the business momentum now, so when you do open it, you've got some clients. Offer them an incentive, like a 10% off coupon, to come back again later and visit your new store. But that's a good way to test the market. Just see what you're selling to the same customer base in a different location where you don't have to pay rent.
John, I hear Christian...
Could I interject?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I mean, I don't want to be the Simon Cowell of entrepreneurship here, but just be careful to research the market even before testing it. I mean, some of the long-term trends may be against you. If you look at the fact, I mean, you mentioned creating a bookstore. I don't know if that means a physical presence or an online presence, but increasingly people are buying books online. Borders and Barnes & Noble are both struggling. So that's one trend that's going to make a bookstore very difficult. And the second thing I would say to you is there's also a trend away from physical books towards electronic books, you know, with the popularization of the Kindle, and we're seeing a lot more of that continue. So make sure you research and think about the long-term trends before you sink your capital into this.
All right. All right, well, we got to jump to a commercial. We want to give a shout-out to our radio listeners on Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168. Thanks for listening.
More time for your questions. Call us. Greg and Evan Spiradelis are here from Jib Jab. The number is 877-249-9626. Or email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. Mark Suster, our VC this hour, has some ideas how to avoid mistakes that startups often make. That's coming up in the second half of the hour, so stay with us. We're the network of opportunity, Fox Business Network.
It's those changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes, nothing remains quite the same. All of our running and all of our cunning, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane.
We have some breaking news to bring you in this Fox Business News Alert. We are tracking Hurricane Bill, which is heading up. How close is it going to get to the United States? What do you need to know? Dominica Davis is here with the very latest. Dominica?
We're going to look for this storm to pass the closest to the Cape and the Islands late tonight and tomorrow morning. It's still going to be sitting several hundred miles to the east of the islands. But nevertheless, what we're already seeing along the beaches of the East Coast are large ocean swells and rip currents. So that's going to be the biggest concern over the next 24 to 48 hours. Look at Bill right now in the water. It's Category 2. It has been downgraded a bit, and it is weakening because it's entering some cooler waters, and it's just started to make that northern turn that is going to send it toward Nova Scotia. We have a cold front that's pushing in on the East Coast, which has helped steering this storm away from us. But nevertheless, there's a look at the track right now. Winds are 100 miles per hour. We have the latest advisory coming in at 2 o'clock. Tonight is when we're expecting it to make its closest pass to the Cape and the Islands, and then we'll see this storm diminish as it moves further off to the north. So by tomorrow morning, we're looking at winds down to 85 miles per hour. We will be looking for some dangerous rip currents, as I mentioned, some large ocean swells. We could see right around high tide swells anywhere to a foot to over a foot. So a lot of concern with that. Certainly not the best beach day, and we can expect some very heavy rain from this storm overnight for the Cape and the Islands. And then when you work with that cold front, there could be some flooding along the East Coast. But up and down the East Coast today, certainly not a day to do surfing or to be in the boat. Probably just a day to relax on the beach or indoors. Guys?
Dominica, thank you for that update. Dominica Davis from Fox News.
Yeah, be careful out there, everybody. Okay, we got to jump right to the phone. Michelle from Illinois. What's your question, Michelle?
Yes, my question is in regards to obtaining business credit. I've seen credit building companies advertise stating that they can assist businesses in obtaining credit lines. Due to the market now, since it's hard to obtain credit on our own, would it be advantageous to actually, dish out an additional expense to these companies to assist us?
Oh, Dani Babb. Oh, mercy. I just, they make me, those pitches make me nervous.
They do, and a lot of times they'll send you documents that look like government SBA loans too, and they'll have you mail them back, and they're really not government official documents. There's a much faster way to build credit. First of all, open a cell phone account in your business's name. You usually have to pay a $300 or $400 deposit. It's a much cheaper way to do it. Another way to do this is to go to virginmoney.com, make a loan with someone else that you're agreeing to make a loan with, have them report it to the business's tax identification number, which Virgin Money will allow you to do. There's a small fee to do this. It'll not only build your credit, but if you do need some startup capital, there's actually some ways to network within their own system that will provide that startup capital that you need.
John Rutledge, what do you think?
I am very, very skeptical about people that try and sell services to people who are in trouble and promise to get them out of trouble. I think there's so many scams out there. You have to be very, very careful. Never do it unless you know someone who's done it and likes the experience. So I'd be very careful. As Dani says, you know, so many times people call us and they have problems with, you know, I can't get money, or I can't get this, or I can't get that, and looking for an outside solution. Unfortunately, as we keep seeing over and over again, the solution is to do it yourself. And if you can take charge, go out there and do things that establish a payment record on your own, and sometimes that means you're going to have to be patient and wait some time to do it. But be careful of the scammers.
Thank you.
Well, another really quick thing here, too, is a lot of vendors are allowing to help out new businesses. They're actually reporting vendor payments on credit. So as long as you know you're not going to be late with anything, it might be a good idea to make sure if you have vendors involved that they're also reporting to the credit. Anything you can do. You know, countries in South America, oftentimes whether you get credit or not depends on whether you paid your local grocery bill and or your telephone bill, and it's not reported on a large credit scale, so large credit bureau. So that's another way to sort of organically grow that credit that you need.
Dani, thank you for that. We've still got more time to answer your questions. Greg and Evan Spiridelis are here from Jib Jab. Also coming up, your favorite,
The Pitch.
877-249-9626 is the number. The email is yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. We'll be right back.
It's healthcare in his spare time. He's Barack Obama. He's come to save the day. He'll use his superpowers to win in Iraq. Then Kung Fu chop the Taliban. Ka-chow, ka-chow. Our image in the world he'll mend. Then make the Jews and Arabs friends. He's Barack Obama. He's come to save the day.
Welcome back. Your questions, your money. 30 minutes left. Get on the phone and call us. And on the phone, we have Mike from Pennsylvania. Hey, Mike, what's your question?
I have a question about, I have an idea about a comedy show, but it involves a network show and a cable show. I wanted to know how I should go about pitching it to like a network or a cable network.
Well, Mike, I think you can first start by pitching it to Greg and Evan from Jib Jab. What's the idea, Mike?
It's a combination of, you know, what couple shows that are on television that kind of along the lines of what they're doing, making fun of different shows.
Mm-hmm.
And my idea was how the hell would I, you know, turn it into something profitable for myself.
Greg, go right ahead to answer Mike's question. We don't know what the idea is, but again,
well, that's it. How do I protect myself?
No, well, that's a great point, so be careful. Hang on. Go ahead, Greg.
I mean, we're the guys who would say, forget TV, forget the agents, forget the whole traditional way of doing it, and go out and make it and try to build an audience on the web for it. It's really, I mean, for us, that was the impetus for starting Jib Jab, was to bypass all the gatekeepers of traditional media and go right to the audience with the work we were creating. So that would be my advice to you. And as to how to go about doing it profitably, come talk to us in a year. Hopefully we'll be there.
We'll give you some
Year 11,
advice.
we'll give you some advice.
But Evan, that's the way to go, right? With these webisodes, we're seeing more and more of that out there. We're seeing, I mean, obviously YouTube, you could throw your stuff up anywhere these days, but it's a good way to test the market too, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, to Greg's point about using the web versus traditional media, right before we started Jib Jab, I had an idea for a TV show, and I went down to Philadelphia to visit Greg at school, and he said to me, and I'll never forget it, he said, do you really want to be banging out horseshoes while the Model T is rolling off the assembly line? The internet was the Model T, and traditional media was the horseshoe. It was kind of, there's this brand new opportunity, and yeah, Tin Lizzy is not that exciting, but you fast forward 90 years, and it is everywhere. It's, whereas horseshoes, yeah, horses still need shoes, but they're not in such high demand. So I think the web is the way to go, and you can go direct to your audience. People will tell you if it's good, and we've made lots of stuff that wasn't that good. So you know, you take that and you learn and you bring it to the next.
And just one more thing, it changes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It changes the equation, right? I mean, it used to be guys like us would come crawling up to the stairs at the door of like the giant temple of traditional media and beg for some executive to like us.
To approve us, please.
But, now it's like, we've got 6 million registered members. When we ultimately, go and try and move the brand into other media, we're bringing a really big audience with us. And it's changed the equation, gives leverage to the creators that never existed before.
But
and I think that's an important point.
Right.
We love TV. We watch TV. We love TV. We love the movies.
Good answer.
I mean, there's other places to go, but but in terms of building your assets and building a valuable franchise, you've got to start grassroots and just get it out there.
Yeah, I'm addicted to TV, but now with the internet, that's all I do. I'm watching like old Guns N' Roses shows from back in '88 on the internet when I'm not watching reality television. But but guys, you did, even during the lean times, did you turn down work from bigger companies? You've been pretty selective over the years, have you not?
Yeah, I think we have turned down, TV and film offers, but, all that came after we had some success online. So when This Land hit and we had 80 million views, we got a lot of calls from agents and studios and networks, and everyone wanted to be our friend that month. So that's when we kind of said, hey, do we really want to give up our direct connection with the audience to make a little money and be put on television, or do we want to double down and stay connected to our audience and stick with the web? So I think for us, we're web guys. It's in our DNA. Like, that's what we do. So we'll keep doing that, and ultimately we'll get to television and film, but I think we'll do it when we have a big enough audience that we can take with us.
Guys, sit tight. It's time for the pitch. You ready, Trace? There you go, girl.
Love it. Love it.
Our guest says, if you're a commuter, this service can save you time and won't cost you a thing. Joshua Crandall, the floor is yours. You're pitching to Mark Suster, Josh, founder of Clever Commute. Go ahead. Pitch to Mark.
Sure. A few years ago, I was a New Jersey Transit commuter. And the day after a particularly bad commute home, I was standing on the platform on the way back to the city, realizing so many of us have these BlackBerries and iPhones and mobile messaging devices, and the idea is, how can we help each other avoid problems as we commute back and forth in major cities like New York, Chicago, and Boston? So it dawned on me to start small and connect the commuters that I knew by sharing email addresses, and we just kind of made a deal and said, hey, let's help each other. The first person who sees a problem lets the other commuters know in real time by sending a very short message to the fellow commuters. It caught on very quickly, and what started as a handshake agreement with 5 of my buddies and myself has grown into a network of almost 7,000 commuters in several major cities. The idea just immediately resonates with the commuters for whom it's a free service, and we've got an amazing retention rate. People do a one-time sign-up at the clevercommute.com website, and from that point on, they're given the instructions on how they can connect with their fellow commuters. So people sign up, and they stay, and they rely on us, and they can't imagine life without it.
And you're making money.
We're making money. So it wasn't set up to make money at the beginning, and I think that feels good. That's something that feels good. It wasn't meant to be a money-making venture, but 2 natural business models have evolved so far. On the one hand, we put non-invasive advertising in the messages sent among the commuters. That's a very natural extension, and the users have absolutely no trouble with that. They actually enjoy seeing relevant advertising. The demographic that we serve is just incredible. It's just white-collar, professional, technology-savvy homeowner audience, so that's great. The other part of the business model that I'm arguably more happy about is the fact that Clever Commute has unique insight into the state of the commute in a metropolitan area. So nobody knows better than we do the exact state of the trip on perhaps New Jersey Transit, Metro North, or Long Island Railroad. So we take the information about the commute, turn it into a real-time data feed, and we have a business-to-business model where we license that to news agencies.
Mark?
Sure.
Listen, on the positive side, to be really positive about one thing, we're moving from the searchable web to the real-time web, and that's being driven largely by Twitter, where people care on a real-time basis what's going on, so that's great. The bigger question I'd have for you, Josh, is I understand that you have advertising, but at 7,000 users, I wonder a little bit about the volume that you have, or the volume that you can have to make any substantive money. Tell me a little bit more about how you see the volume and how you can make money over time.
It's a great question. I mean, the number of unique people that we can deliver today is still fairly modest. I'm very much aware of that. The addressable market in the New York area is, just on the trains alone, which is our sweet spot, that addressable market is about 650,000 people. So there's a ton of room to grow, and that's just in the New York area. But the other interesting thing is overall, we're still delivering close to 500,000 impressions a month. So those are the kind of numbers that are interesting. And then the thing that we also stress is the demographic. I mean, I can share the salary and the education levels, but it's just absolutely off the chart. So we're finding some innovative advertisers who do want to meet that audience.
You're looking for $500,000?
Yes.
Mark, can you give him a verdict or guidance?
Well, let me say this. I think that the challenge that you'll have will not be your immediate business, because your immediate business is solving a real business problem that people have, and that's great. I think your bigger challenge will be to explain your future, where you're going to take all this, because I think your existing business is what we sometimes call FNAC, F-N-A-C, feature, not a company. And I think that'll be the killer thing for you, is to explain where all this heads.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's fair. I mean, this was absolutely derived. The domain of commuting is not going to go away, and this is relevant in several major markets, and we're very happy to have rolled out in Chicago as well as New York, and those two are the two biggies. If you step back, and the concept and the patent that's pending is all built around the idea that disconnected people want to be connected to each other. So we've got a big hill to climb in the commuting market, but I'm very excited about the future, because we could take the same concept and take it to the golf course, where people want to know what's happening, or a theme park, or the beaches, anywhere people who don't know each other want to be connected yet aren't. And there's also a ton of other things we can do for the commuters themselves, and we're working on that.
A final word for Joshua.
Just emphasize the real-time. Luckily for you, the most prominent investor in the real-time web is right in New York City. It's Fred Wilson at Union Square Ventures, who actually invested not only in Twitter, but several other.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Joshua Crandall, Clever Commute, and Mark Suster. Mark's not going anywhere. Thank you for being here. It was great to see you. Best of luck.
I'm a Jersey commuter. I could use your service. All right.
Sign up.
All right. Well, remember, if you have an idea that you want to pitch to a venture capitalist, let us know. Send us an email. It can be an opportunity of a lifetime. You tell us your product, and we'll find the person with the money that can give you some really good advice. So email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com, and you could be sitting on the couch just like Joshua was. So get in touch.
We are going to be right back. Mark Suster has some ideas, mistakes not to make when you're starting a business. Very interesting stuff. Plus, Evan and Greg Spiridelis are here.
As well as Dani Babb and John Rutledge. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Your questions, your money. We're going to go right to an email. Stanley writes, I'm launching a web-based business this fall. My biggest concern is having all of my bases covered. What's at the top of the list? What's your advice? Dani Babb, you've done this over and over again.
Well, first of all, Stanley, make sure that this is Web 2.0 centric. So in other words, it needs to be consumer focused. I don't really know what the web-based business is going to be, but regardless, you need to have things like places that consumers can come in and rate something. They can provide testimonials. I've been doing some research on 5 things that turn web hits into sales, and I've been doing them for obvious reasons because I'm trying to do exactly the same thing. The number one thing was to add testimonials not creating fake testimonials like a lot of the travel sites do, but add real ones from real customers. If somebody emails you information, ask if you can put it on the website and put it up there. Badges build trust. This one actually surprised me, but it was the number 2 on the list in terms of market research data, whether it's from the Better Business Bureau or it's a money-back guarantee if you're trying to sell a good or a product. Service online sales are up 20% since December. That's a good thing. Contact options, in addition to email address, put a phone number and a live chat option if you're selling something. Video clips, it doesn't matter, if you're ugly and you have a bad voice, put up a video clip anyway. And then press, if your website's getting any sort of press, make sure that that's in there. So that plus the social community is a good combination.
Great advice, but Mark Sister, I think that this moves nicely into what you're going to talk about. How to avoid the mistakes of a typical startup, because you've been on both sides of the table, which is the name of your blog, bothsidesofthetable.com. You've been the entrepreneur. Now you're the VC, and you've got some ideas, the top 3 ways of really avoiding a mistake starting up a business.
Sure. I have to say, seeing the fun that Greg and Evan seem to be having and wearing their hats, I'm sort of regretting maybe wanting to go back to the other side of the table. But listen, the very first thing you need to do is moonlight responsibly. The vast majority of callers that I see on your program are thinking about their next business probably when they already have an existing company. And you need to be careful. Do not use the company resources during the office hours from 9 to 5 or whatever your company's hours are. And the reason is that over time, as you heard from Greg and Evan, it takes years to build a successful company. And I think people have this myth that it actually happens overnight. And what you don't want to find out is in year 5, 6, 7, when all your time and money has gone into it, that your last employer has some claim over your business because it was created on their resource. The second thing I tell people is to register your company. That's important for a lot of reasons, primarily legal reasons. As you go out and talk to people about what you're doing, there's always the risk that other people are taking your idea or saying it was their idea. Even if you're successful down the track, they could claim it was your idea. There was a famous lawsuit against Facebook for just this reason. Register your company, and you need to do the research about whether that's an LLC, a C Corp, or an S Corp, and all that information's online. The third thing that I tell people is protect your IP. IP meaning intellectual property. Now, you may work with people to launch a website. You may work with people to create prototypes of a physical product if that's what you have. You need to make sure that whatever work people do for you, that intellectual property is assigned to your company, the company that you hopefully have already registered. And that's why the advice that came earlier in the show about getting good lawyers involved is incredibly important.
You've done all the legal work, but then, Mark, you've got to get down to the nitty-gritty of the people. That's just part of the next step.
Sure. Listen, the most important thing really in building out your business is assembling the right team. And I think we see it exactly in Greg and Evan, right? You've got the creative person in Evan who creates these amazing videos. You have Greg, who's the business person figuring out how they're going to make money. Secretly, I think they could do a little stand-up comedy on the side based on their performance on the show. But, you really need to figure out what your skills are and make sure you assemble a team appropriately. And don't rush to bring in tons of friends into your business, because then what you're doing is giving away value to people and potentially creating conflicts. So make sure you know what your company is, get the idea formed, and then assemble a team around you. The other thing that I like to tell people really is to make sure that you research your market, because what I see a lot of people doing is creating products and trying to launch them into the market. We heard that earlier in the call, the person who said that they were going to launch a book business, but you need to really understand what the trends are before you jump in there and put your time and money. And the last point I tell people is get things done. When I ran a company, we had a play off the Nike commercial, the Just Do It. I had 4 letters on my wall, JFDI. Now, what I like to tell people is that being an entrepreneur is about taking decisions and getting things done, and only 70% of your decisions are going to be correct at best, right? But it's the people who get things done that succeed. And when they come to people like me, when they come to GRP Partners and pitching, if they have an 80-page presentation but they haven't actually built anything, they're not likely ultimately to get funded.
Well, those are great ideas, and I know that just get things done, Mark Suster, because I'm up at 3 a.m. and you're on the West Coast emailing me. It's this really sick online relationship we have. But
It's called insomnia.
Imagine if he was on your board of directors.
Well, he's the guy you certainly want, that's for sure.
He will bear down on you, and he will make you a good business operator.
That's right.
I'll tell you that.
All right.
Listen, I would just say quickly, Dagan, that being an entrepreneur never ends. It's weekends, it's evenings, it's hard work. You don't get to check out. It is not all the glamour that people think it is. It's a lot of hard work, but the payoff is enormous. And just make sure that you don't make the mistakes at the start of your business, that when you've put in all that effort, somehow the value is taken away from you. It's really important.
And I know Greg, Evan, Danny, and John all could attest to all of that, I'm sure. All right, we have to take a quick break. So if you're heading out to run errands, keep listening on the radio, Sirius Channel 145 and XM 168.
Right back. More answers to your questions about your business. Stay with us.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Welcome back to Your Questions, Your Money. Let's get straight to the phones. We have Don on the phone from Texas. Hey, Don.
Hey, guys. Thanks. I love your show. Thanks for having me on. My question is that we have a small trucking company we started 20 years ago with one truck. We have 25 trucks now. Revenue's good, $4 million a year. Cash flow's good. Got a great relation with the banks. My next question is, we have one place here in Dallas, but we're trying to open up multiple places across the country. I was wondering if y'all have any ideas on how to pitch that to investors to open up multiple branches for transportation.
John Rutledge does, I'm sure.
You know, I think, Don, well, first of all, congratulations. If you have a successful business 25 years long and you're making money in this economy, you are one of the great heroes. It's a very tough business. I've been an investor in trucking companies before, and I know that there are times when the banks are just not going to do what you want them to do, and you're not going to find an investor today that's going to step up and take that risk. But what you will find is other companies, local companies in other markets, where they're not managing their business as well as you are, and where you can go in and do a joint venture with them to essentially swap bases to use each other's operations. That may be a way of identifying the company that you will then acquire in those other markets when financing opens back up again in 1 or 2 years, as it always does.
Danny?
Yeah, John took the words right out of my mouth here. I would say that the way to move here, you're not going to get more than 100 or 200 grand even with for a new business operation, even with an established bank. So what I would do is exactly that. I would identify companies that because of mismanagement are not doing so well, but are in the markets that you want to be in. Go to those owners. Some of them are even, believe it or not, advertising on Craigslist if they want someone to buy up their company. Go in there, find out if they're willing to take an equity stake where you're paying them a percentage of the profits after you get the thing running in the next 6 to 12 months, and you can turn it around and then put your name on it, maybe after it has a better reputation, and then grow your business that way until the money returns back to the market.
Mark, I know it's too early for him to go in front of a venture capitalist, but what would you suggest?
Well, I think there's 2 other sources of capital he might look to. First is vendor financing. Who's going to gain from the gentleman getting in multiple cities? Presumably someone who manufactures trucks, right? So these a huge capital base and someone who probably he already has an existing relationship with. And the other is potentially looking at customer financing. Who would benefit of his existing client base if he had multi-city locations and potentially approach them? I think the stage of business you're at and the type of business will never be a venture capital business, but there are companies called growth equity financing companies, and you may just be right for them.
And he's lucky to be in what's, in the grand scheme of things, a solid area of the country down in Texas. Evan and Greg, it's not your business, but just some final words for everybody who tuned in today.
I think.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Mark was talking about in the last segment, I thought it was all fantastic advice. One other thing that really helps is to enjoy what you do. Be passionate about your business. I mean, you can be passionate about anything, but find the thing that you love and try and make that your livelihood, and it's worked for us.
No.
Do you guys how often do you fight? What percentage of the time?
Well, we always joke that the number of fights we've had in 10 years you could count on two hands. We might be up to a toe or two, but they always last a couple of minutes. We separate and it's all over. So
It's no time to fight.
We're too busy. There's too much to get done.
That's so
and fighting
nice.
is not
Your
productive.
mom must be so proud. I hope my kids say that someday.
Yeah, my family business, they didn't fight, but my mom and dad would come home and yell at the kids because they were stifling all day long, but that's another story.
Yeah. Well, also, our dad is an entrepreneur, and we grew up in an entrepreneurial household, and it's great to have someone, a mentor you could turn to and ask questions.
Well, you
So
have to
that's
come
always
back
a
and
great
tell us
thing.
those stories, guys. So thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
A big shout out to
Thank
you
you.
guys. Thank you for joining us this Saturday. Mark Suster, thanks to you from GRP Partners. Evan and Greg Spiridelis, Jib Jab, Dani Babb, and John Rutledge, and Tracy Burns. We'll be back Monday.
Have a good weekend.